Hare Krishna. My deep gratitude to each and every one of you, and especially to the temple management here for inviting me and for giving me an opportunity to serve all of you. Very grateful to you, Prabhu. Very grateful to all the devotees. I feel blessed because last year also I was in US and many devotees told me, "Have you gone to Houston? Have you?" No. And devotees appreciate the community here, the deity worship here, the temple here. Beautiful. I feel blessed. I feel like I've come on a yatra. Thank you. Today we'll discuss on Krishna Katha, glories of Lord Krishna. Any ISKCON Sunday feast program, whenever we have classes, in ISKCON you'll see the main topic is Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam. Because that is our, what we call in management language, USP. Krishna is our USP. We don't want to be shy. We want to glorify Krishna. And now there is Bhadra Purnima. So we are going to have a campaign for promoting Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'll briefly mention about Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada, when he was starting ISKCON, somebody told him, why don't you name it as International Society for God Consciousness? It's a more secular term. People will be able to appreciate it more. And Srila Prabhupada gave a beautiful answer. He said, if people don't know what is God, who is God, then I want to tell them Krishna. I want to tell them about Krishna. So he was never shy about glorifying Krishna. Because Krishna, the word, all of you know what is the meaning of the word Krishna? What does the word Krishna mean? Who will say? All attractive. Even the Greeks, the origin of the word Christ is a Greek word Christos, which means attractive. God is all attractive. In fact, in the Bhagavatam, when you read, you will see so many verses glorifying Krishna, how is all attractive. But do you know something? You don't even need to read Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, you should read Srimad Bhagavatam. But I'm just saying, to understand how Krishna is all attractive, even without reading Srimad Bhagavatam, if you keep your eyes and ears open, you will see how Krishna is charming everybody's heart. Like recently, His Holiness Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj, a dear friend of ours, he was in our temple in Chowpatty. And he was sharing his own personal story. He was distributing books in Paris, France. And one young boy came up to him, a Muslim boy, and he asked him, what are you doing? So Keshav Maharaj showed him Bhagavad Gita, Krishna book. And when this boy saw Krishna's photo, the painting, he said, I know him. He's amazing. So Keshav Maharaj said, how do you know him? He said, that the boy told Keshav Maharaj, you tell me what is his name? So Keshav Maharaj said, his name is Krishna. He's all attractive. And this boy said, yeah, this boy has been haunting me. So Keshav Maharaj said, really? What is your story? So this boy said, some months ago I went to India. And I went to a remote place. So Keshav Maharaj said, which place? He said, you wouldn't know. So Keshav Maharaj said, no, you can try me. I may know the place. Tell me. So he said, I went to a place called Jaipur. So what happened in Jaipur? He said, I went to a temple, a Hindu temple. And I saw the idol they worship there. It's called Govinda. And since I've seen that Govinda, I'm constantly reminded of him. He's constantly coming in my consciousness. And now I see this is similar. Can you tell me more about him? But then Keshav Maharaj was saying that I got so emotional. I was preaching to him for an hour. Because he was all ears about Krishna. How Krishna can enchant someone's heart if we are open-minded. And if we are just tuning in. We don't know how mercy can come. And this boy has been captivated by Krishna. We need to let go the false ego, the defensive. When we hear, we have our defenses are on. We are defending. But if we let go, Krishna will charm our heart. I remember also once I went to Moscow. This is long ago. And I remember I met one boy called Alex. He was in the temple. I asked him, how did you join? And what a story, what a fascinating story he said. He said, I was a Russian who had no idea about India or Hinduism. The only thing I knew about India was Goa. Any guesses why Goa? Why is Goa Dham very popular? Actually, interestingly, Goa has beautiful temples. It's an amazing spiritual place. But unfortunately, it's famous only for the beaches and the sense gratification. So he says, like any other Western boy, he knew about Goa as a place for enjoyment. So with 3 of his friends, he came to Goa. And they enjoyed like anything. And their return back to Russia was via Mumbai, Bombay. So they decided to travel from Goa to Bombay by road. So as they were traveling, they would hitchhike, they would have fun, they would take a taxi sometimes, a bus. And they were enjoying that trip. And suddenly in one village in Konkan area, they went to a Krishna temple. And they saw the deity of Krishna. And the pujari there gave them some prasadam, khichdi prasadam. And they were mesmerized. He says, I was totally mesmerized by that experience of the Krishna temple. I asked him which village, which temple. He had no memory of, he didn't know which place. He didn't know the names of anything. He just said, I know it was a Krishna deity. And when I came back to Russia, every day I was thinking, where can I get something like this? And one day, one of his office colleagues gave him a Bhagavad Gita. And when he opened the Gita, he saw Krishna's photo. He said, this is similar. And then he went on the last page, he went on the internet, he found out, and then he came to the temple at Urolova, or Dinamo temple in Moscow, and he saw Radha Krishna. He says, I just started crying, I don't know why. And the next day I joined, and he had been there for the last 4 or 5 years. These are all powerful examples. And you know what? It's not simply people who come to a Krishna temple simply by chanting Krishna's name sincerely. Just saying Krishna with innocence, with feeling, you will see your heart completely captivated. I don't know if you're aware, there was one video which went viral on WhatsApp some months ago, some year, I think last year. I don't know if you've seen this. I'll have to go back and see where it is. It's a video of 3 girls, small girls in India, chanting one bhajan of Krishna. It's an amazing story. You know, this music contest in India, there are a lot of television shows where they have singing contests, like Indian Idol and things like that. So there is a singing contest for children conducted by non-devotees. They're not ISKCON members. It's a professional television singing competition show for children. 3 different shows with 3 different set of participants, with 3 different set of judges and different audiences at different places across Kerala, which is a southern state in India. And believe it or not, in all the 3 shows, there was one girl in each of these shows who was singing a popular Malayalam Krishna bhajan, which is nothing to do with Hare Krishna devotees, but these girls were wanting to win the contest. All girls in the age group of 8 to 12, 8 to 11 or something. And you can see these innocent girls, they are singing and the parents are in the audience, everybody is watching. And each of these 3 girls were singing that particular bhajan of Krishna, which in the last 1 minute, it's in a high pitch. You have to sing Krishna. I can't imitate. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. It's like that. They have to sing, I think, 8 or 9 times. It's part of the song. So each of these girls, and they really did it well. Krishna, and everybody is listening attentively. It's a professional show. And suddenly, just towards the end, each of the 3 girls, when they were chanting Krishna in a very high pitch, their voice choked up. Tears started gushing out of their eyes. And all the judges' eyes were moist. The audience people were crying. You can watch it. I'm sure it's there on YouTube, or not now. Don't watch it now. Nowadays, everybody immediately, you are, you can. So, and when I saw that, I was so amazed. I remembered that beautiful verse Srila Rupa Goswami wrote. Smeram Bangi Traya Parichitam Sachi Vistirna Drishti Vamsi Nesto Darakishalayam Ujvalam Chandrakena Govindakhyam Hari Tanumya Keshi Tirto Pakanthe Ma Prekshishthastava Sakhe Yadi Bandhu Sange Strirange. In a very beautiful verse, Rupa Goswami is telling, one gopi, covered girl in Vrindavan, she is telling another gopi, my dear friend, if you are attached to your family, wealth, children, then I request you, don't go to the banks of Yamuna at Keshi Ghat. Why? Because there you will find a young, mischievous boy who in his threefold bending form is as beautiful as the full moon, is playing his flute. Don't go there. Basically, it's a very poetic way of saying, go there. So, why? Because she says, if you go there, this boy will captivate your heart and you will forget everything else. So the point I'm saying is, this is Namabhas chanting. These girls were chanting so innocently. So when we connect with Krishna, Krishna will fill that vacuum and void in our heart. I want to clarify one thing. It's not simply humans or boys and young girls who get attracted to Krishna. Do you know something? Even animals get attracted to Krishna. His Holiness Srila Janananda Swami Maharaj, I met him in New Mayapur, France, last month. And he written a book called Animals in Krishna Consciousness. Beautiful book. And when I was talking to him, I realized how it's so true, because I have seen one dog where I stay in Mumbai. We have a Govardhan Eco Village. There's one dog who is just so attracted. Every Mangalarti he comes on his own. A street dog. But he has enough the etiquette. He won't enter the temple hall. He will be outside, wagging his tail at everyone who's coming to the temple. So we named him Mangal because he comes from Mangalarti. And we gave him prasadam. So animals are also attracted. In Vrindavan, if you see, not just animals, even the bumblebees, bzzz, they're hovering around Krishna. In fact, the Bhagavatam calls the bumblebee as Ali. Ali, not Muhammad Ali. Ali Krishna Das. There is one devotee I know. So the bumblebees, they're hovering around Krishna 24 hours. They're just singing. They're so attracted to Krishna. And Krishna, just imagine the bumblebees around you. Wouldn't you get irritated? We get irritated if someone is just around us all the time. But Krishna doesn't get irritated. Krishna is so happy to be with these bumblebees. In fact, the Bhagavatam says, these bees are so fortunate. They are more fortunate than the Gopas and the Gopis. Because the Gopis, at night they associate with Krishna, but in the daytime they are missing Krishna because Krishna goes to the forest to herd the cows. So the Gopis are saying, oh, when will Krishna come back? When will the sun set? They're looking in the western direction and telling the sun, come on, sun, set fast. Why are you going so slow? Is there a traffic jam? Why don't you go fast? We want Krishna to come back from the forest so that we can be with him. And at night time, the Gopas, Krishna's covered boyfriends, they are lamenting or they are feeling separation. When will the sun rise so that we can go to Mother Yashoda's house and grab Krishna and go with him to the forest? So the Gopas don't get all the time association, the Gopis don't get all the time, but the bees are always with Krishna. And even when Krishna is taking bath, the bees are hovering around. Beautiful. So that's how Krishna reciprocates with them. Not just the bees. Different animals, there's a description of the deer. That I don't know if you've experienced. Deer are very, the animals, amongst animals, deer are the ones who are very scared generally. You go near them, they run away. So the deer also love Krishna, but they're not able to sing choice poetry or shlokas, verses, or do kirtan for Krishna. So how do they express their love to Krishna? They come in front of Krishna, and what do you think they do? Like, if you come in front of Krishna, if Krishna comes in front of you, you may spontaneously jump, dance, sing. But how do you think the deer express their love? The Bhagavatam says, Dhanyasma mudagatayo piharinya ya nanda nandanamupata vichitra vesham akarnya venuranitam sah krishna sara pujam dadurvirechitam pranayavaloke. The gopis are saying, wow, these deer are so fortunate. Along with their husbands, they come to see Krishna. And when they hear Krishna's flute, they are so attracted. They come running. And how do they express their love? Pranayavalokai. Simply by looking at Krishna with their eyes of affection. They can't do anything else. They just look at Krishna with feeling and longing. And Krishna becomes convinced that they love me so much. So even the animals in Vrindavan are attracted to Krishna. So Bhagavatam describes how if we are simply attentive and we receive Krishna without the false ego coming in the play, then magic will happen. Generally when we hear, I don't know your experience, we hear with our defense on. We don't generally hear what the speaker wants to say. We generally hear what we want to hear. I don't know if you have experienced this. It happens with me also. I remember from the initial days when I came to ISKCON, I remember a friend of mine who was a scientist. In the sense, he was a nuclear physicist. And in the class, one speaker was saying, he was quoting Srila Prabhupada saying these atheistic scientists. He was talking about the atheistic scientists as, demoniac or something like that. He said something to that effect. So this boy is telling me, you know what? Now, he didn't hear Prabhupada saying that the atheistic scientists are demons because he identified himself as a scientist. You know what he heard? Prabhupada said, scientists are demons. And because he identified himself as a scientist, he thought Prabhupada called him a demon. He took it very personally. So, that kind of hearing won't help. But if we are attentive and present, then Krishna magic will work. And the best source of Krishna magic is Srimad Bhagavatam. This month when we take part in Bhadra Purnima marathon, distributing Srimad Bhagavatam, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we are inviting Krishna into our hearts. And what is Srimad Bhagavatam? Srimad Bhagavatam is the crème la crème. I don't know how you pronounce it in French. Crème la crème? Is that how you pronounce? The best, the epitome of any scriptural understanding of God. The way Krishna is described in Bhagavatam is mind-blowing. Srila Prabhupada, when he came to the West, when he came to America, he said, I'm not going to US, I'm not going to America, the Bhagavatam is going to America. But because Bhagavatam is in book form, I'm accompanying the Bhagavatam. He considered himself a servant of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam was written when Narad Muni came to Vyasadeva, the author. Now please understand, Vyasadeva is the author of all the Vedic scriptures. Great author. And he's sitting on the bank of river Saraswati, feeling despondent. He's feeling, I'm not feeling happy. There is something lacking in my heart. I mean, he has done everything possible. He has written scriptures and given us all the knowledge of everything. But firbhi, there is something in the heart which is, I'm not feeling fulfilled. And he began to wonder, why am I not feeling fulfilled? Kimva bhagavata dharma na prayena nirupita priya paramahamsanam tadeva achyuta priya. Oh, maybe I'm not feeling fulfilled because I did not glorify Krishna exclusively and purely. Maybe, he's not sure. Maybe because of that. And that time, his spiritual master Narad Muni comes there. And Narad Muni looks at his disciple Vyasadeva and says, my dear disciple, are you happy? No, he knows, the Guru knows what the disciple is going through. So very sarcastically he says, Parasharya mahabhaga bhavata kachidatmana paritushyati sharira atma manasa evava. Are you happy glorifying the body and mind in your scriptures? Basically, he knows that he is not happy. So then Vyasadeva understands, oh, my Guru Maharaj has understood. And he says, Please guide me. I'm feeling a vacuum in my heart. There is something missing. What is it? And then Narad Muni says, Bhavata nodita prayam yasho bhagavato malam yenaiva saunatusheta manyeta darshanam khilam. Khilam means waste. He says, all that you have written so far is a waste. What a blow to the ego. I mean, if, as an author, I've written a few books. And if somebody says, I will be reading your book, I feel so flattered. What to speak of somebody who's written so many books, so much of knowledge, and his guru tells him all that you have written is a waste. Why? Because Yasho Bhagavato Amalam. You have not glorified Krishna, and that's why you are feeling a vacuum. This is the secret of deep happiness. So, you may wonder, but Mahabharata contains glorification of Krishna. There are many scriptures where Krishna is glorified, Krishna is mentioned. No, there is a difference. In all the scriptures, the main focus is Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And Krishna is also mentioned a little bit. But Narad Muni says, you write a scripture which is exclusively glorifying the Lord. It's like those of you know India, I can see many Indian faces here. So, I'll give an Indian example. Gujarati cuisine is very, very popular in India also. There are a lot of dhokla, handwa, so many amazing items. So imagine you go to a Gujarati feast and there's a plate filled with so many delicacies. And in the side they also give a little bit of pickles. The pickle is just like, okay, just a little bit of add-on if you may want a pickle. But imagine you are served you go to a Gujarati house for a feast and they serve a plate filled with pickles. And little bit of dhokla there and little bit of handwa, little bit of, kheer, sweet. You will say, but the main dish is not pickles. The main dish should be the other things and pickles should be somewhere in the corner. Similarly, what Vyasadeva did was something like this. Krishna's glorification, which is like the main feast, he put it in the corner. And the other things, he glorified them so much. So Narad Muni says, change the paradigm. Make Krishna as the exclusive object of glorification. See the difference it makes to your consciousness. And that's how the magic happened. And Narad Muni says, Nayad vachas chitra padam harer yasho jagat pavitram pragranita karihi tadvayasam tirtamushanti manasa nayatra hamsa niramantu shikshaya. One of the most beautiful celebrated shlokas of the Bhagavatam. Narad Muni says, my dear disciple, just glorify Krishna. Don't remove all your misgivings. Just don't worry. Jagat pavitram. The world will become purified. People will be happy. If you don't glorify Krishna, all that you write will become a holy place of pilgrimage. If you write anything that doesn't glorify Krishna, that becomes a what? A holy place of pilgrimage. He clarifies though. What holy place? He says, Tad Vayasam Tirtam, the holy place of pilgrimage for crows. Where does the crow go? To a garbage can. So he says, Tad Vayasam Tirtam Ushanti Manasa Nayatra Hamsa Niramantu Shikshaya. The swan-like devotees won't go there. So Narad Muni says, we all, all of us, we have a swan inside us. We also have a crow. We like garbage also. We like Krishna also. So I think some of us have 50% crow, 50% swan, or 90% crow, 10% swan. So when we come to Bhagavatam, what will happen? Slowly the crow percentage will go down and the swan percentage will increase. And we'll get attracted to Krishna. That's what Narad Muni is saying. And the next verse is the most amazing verse which predicts the arrival of Srila Prabhupada. The next verse, Narad Muni tells Vyasadeva, my dear disciple, you know what? If you glorify Krishna, even if you are filled with faults, you will be happy and everyone will be happy. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abadya yatyapi namananantasya yashon kitaniyat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. He says, if you glorify Krishna, it will bring about viplavo, a revolution in human society. And if your composition and glorification of Krishna, yasmin pratishlokam abadya yatyapi, even if it is filled with mistakes, grammatical mistakes. Sometimes some devotees, when they give class, they may not know the English language well. They may make grammatical mistakes. Like I remember today morning I was hearing a class of one very enthusiastic devotee in Chowpatty. I hear the morning class. He was saying, and he loves Krishna. And anybody hears his class, we feel attracted. But when his English is, he was saying, I don't know who dressed the deities. He says, I doesn't know who dressed the deities. He's grammatical. He makes a lot of grammatical mistakes. But he was just captivated because he loves Krishna. So Narad Muni says, even if you make mistakes, but if your heart is in the right place, people will get enamored and captivated by Krishna. Because Namananantasya yashon kitaniyat, Krishna's name, Krishna's beauty, Krishna's form, Krishna's qualities are all attractive. Shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. If we hear and glorify Krishna, we'll be totally satisfied. In fact, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that he writes this sentence, English is a foreign language for me. Srila Prabhupada, he was from Bengal and he had a Bengali accent also. How many of you, any Bengalis here? Wow, so many of you. So please don't mind, a joke. Bengalis, I love Bengali language. Honestly, I love Chaitanya Charitamrita. I memorized so many shlokas, it's in Bengali. I strongly believe that when Bengalis speak Bengali, it is like somebody, speaking with Rasgulla in their mouth. Bengali language is very sweet. But the accent, because of the pronunciation, I remember one Bengali told us, oh, please come to our house for bhojan. So we thought he's going to feed us nice prasad. When we went there, there was no bhojan. He only gave us kartala and mridang. What he meant was bhajan. Please come for bhojan. So we thought bhojan. So they have their accent. So Srila Prabhupada says, he's so humble. He says, English is a foreign language for me. And then he writes, I'm sure that what I'm writing here will have many literary discrepancies, but I have faith because my intention is pure. I'm confident that this book will bring a revolution in human society. Srila Prabhupada wrote this 5 years before he went to America, before he came here. And his words proved prophetic. When he came to America, he started preaching in New York. And you know what? He started glorifying Krishna right away. In fact, in one of the initial classes, he started speaking on Chaitanya Charitamrita. He started speaking about Sanatana Goswami meeting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And these young boys, some of them were hippies. They had no idea about Krishna consciousness. And they're in the class and they're writing notes. And Srila Prabhupada in his heavy Bengali accent is saying, so Mahaprabhu has come to save Sanatana Goswami. So Sanatana, they don't know what is Sanatana. Satsvarup Maharaj. Then he was Steve Guarino, Chuck, who then became Achyutanand, Bruce became Brahmanand, Greg became Gargamuni, Keith became Kirtananand. All of them were young boys hearing the class, attentively writing notes, and Prabhupada is talking about Sanatana Goswami, and Steve writes in his notebook the spelling of Sanatana as suntan. And Chuck, he writes as sonoton. Everybody writes a different spelling. And Srila Prabhupada says, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and these hippies, they had long hair. And Prabhupada says in the class, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to shave all of you. And they're like, what? They have long hair and like, Mahaprabhu has come to shave. So then Prabhupada looks at them and he understands what's happening. Then he smiles. He says, yes, Mahaprabhu has come to shave and save, both. So they're laughing and they're happy to be with Prabhupada. In the initial days, before he started ISKCON, he was giving a class to the old people there. And that audio is still there in the red box we have, Prabhupada's tape. You'll find that class. These elderly people are sitting, initial days, and Prabhupada is saying, so we are glorifying Krishna. And then he stops. Krishna, you know Krishna? He looks at the audience. There is a pin drop silence because the audience has no idea what is Krishna, who is Krishna. Prabhupada says, Krishna, you don't know Krishna? Have you seen painting Bhagavad Gita? Krishna? Silence. You can see Prabhupada's voice, that failing little bit. Oh, he realizes that for them, Krishna, in India, even Muslims, Christians, everybody has heard about Krishna. And he is like in a foreign place where Krishna, and then Prabhupada says, oh, they don't know about Krishna. And at one time in the class, Srila Prabhupada says, I'm not happy here. My heart wants to be in Vrindavan with Krishna. I feel sad. And one lady, she says, yeah, we know you're not happy here. She's also commenting like that. Prabhupada says, yeah, I want to go back to Vrindavan where Krishna is. But I will not go back. My Guru Maharaj has ordered me to give Krishna consciousness here. So his compassion, his desire to give Krishna. In fact, the way Srila Prabhupada endured hardships to give us Krishna is incredible. In fact, when he was writing Bhagavatam in San Francisco, he was writing commentaries. Haight-Ashbury district. For those of you who don't know the context, in 1966, the district was filled with so many hippies who were into so much of drugs that the governor, the mayor there was afraid that the hippies may take over the district. They were proliferating in such large numbers. And Srila Prabhupada was trying to preach to them, to attract them to Krishna. And you were writing commentaries at night. You would get up at 12:30 in the midnight and write till 5:30. The commentaries on Bhagavatam. Because that was the time when you could be peaceful. And one night, believe it or not, there was a knock on the door. Like this. And he looked at the watch. It was 1:30 a.m. And he was wondering who is knocking on the door at this hour. And he opened the door. And guess what? There was a young girl, 23-year-old girl. And she's big eyes. And she's staring at Prabhupada. And Prabhupada says, who are you? What do you want? I'm translating Bhagavatam now. Why are you coming and disturbing me now? She keeps looking at Prabhupada. Prabhupada says, yes, speak up. Who are you? What do you want? Why are you coming to disturb me here? I'm writing Bhagavatam. And then she raises her hands. She doesn't chant Hare Krishna. She says, Ooh la 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 la. Srila Prabhupada is taken aback. She was into drugs. So I guess she had some hallucination or some effect of the drugs. But look at Prabhupada. So immediately Prabhupada realized this is crazy hippie. So he closed the door. So as soon as he closed the door, the girl entered the house. She entered the apartment. Now a sannyasi is not supposed to be with a woman. So as soon as she entered the house, this is 1:30 in the morning, so Srila Prabhupada instinctively, he came out of the house because he can't be with her. And this girl who's inside the house and Prabhupada is outside the house, she also came out of the house. But as she came out, she pulled the door. It was a self-locking door. And Srila Prabhupada didn't have the keys. And now both this girl and Srila Prabhupada are locked outside the house. And Srila Prabhupada says, what have you done? You stupid girl. And this girl looks at Prabhupada and says, ooh la 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 la. And Srila Prabhupada doesn't know what to do. Wherever he goes, this girl is following him. And Srila Prabhupada says, now I need a key. Who has a key? Oh, Mukunda may have a key, but Mukunda, where does he stay? Srila Prabhupada in that cold winter, January 1967, he's walking there, trying to find out where is Mukunda living. I think he's in this apartment, no here. He has an extra key of the room where I stay. So after an hour, wherever he's going, this girl is following him. And intermittently, as soon as Srila Prabhupada would look at her, she would say, "Hoo la la la." So Srila Prabhupada finally finds Mukunda's house. And he says, and Mukunda sees, he's shocked. What is this, Swamiji with the girl? And he tells this girl, and then Prabhupada explains to him what has happened. And Mukunda, he scolds that girl. You stupid girl, what are you doing? Swamiji is an elderly Swami, and this is the only time he writes. And then this girl smiles at Mukunda and says, you won't understand. You are a kid. And then again, her eyes becomes big and she says, ooh la la. So then Mukunda has a key. He gets Srila Prabhupada. He opens the door, Prabhupada goes in, he closes the door and drives away the girl. And this all takes 1 hour, 1.5 hours. From 1:30 to almost 3, they are doing all of this. And then Prabhupada comes back to his room. Imagine this happened with you. How it would affect you. But Srila Prabhupada, very graciously, seamlessly, he comes back to his table and starts translating Bhagavatam as if nothing had happened. I mean, what absorption! And then he writes Bhagavatam, and the morning he would come down for class at 7, as usual every day. When he came for the class, he sang Radha, Madhav, and then when he opened his eyes, in the audience, believe it or not, that girl was sitting. And she had become much more sober, because I think the effect of the drug had worn off. And she was sitting in the audience, like all of you are sitting, she was sitting in the class. And Srila Prabhupada, look at Srila Prabhupada's presence of mind and sharpness and fearlessness and compassion in giving Krishna and his sense of humor. So he opened the eyes and he looked at her and he smiled, and Prabhupada said, "Hoo la la la." I mean, I was just thinking most people would get so scared and they would insist that the girl be driven away. This is amazing compassion of Srila Prabhupada. At that age, he comes to America at the age of 70 from India. He could have stayed in India. He would have become a big Babaji. He was already well known to the governor of UP, the Prime Minister of India. His Bhagavatams had been approved and endorsed by Radha Krishna, the President of India. And he could have done, he could have been a Babaji there. Comfortably, he could have lived in Vrindavan. He left all of those comforts and he comes to America. And because he knew deep within, that's what Prabhupada writes in that verse, Tadvag Visargo, purport, that Bhagavatam will fill that vacuum in our heart. So therefore, let us absorb ourselves in Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometimes you may say, but Prabhu, I've got a lot of problems in my job, my EMIs, my family. Will Bhagavatam solve that problem? I know I've seen people say, Prabhu, your classes, the morning classes are not so practical. We need practical classes. And trust me, I have done a lot of practical seminars. I do a lot of practical workshops. But I'm deeply convinced that didactic presentations where we simply hear about Krishna as the speaker speaks about Krishna, that is the most practical class you can have. And trust me when I say this, it will solve your day-to-day problems also. How? You want to know how? The solutions to all your practical worries and problems are there in the Bhagavatam. You know how it works? I'll give an example. One of my cousins has gone into the Indian army. There's an Indian military academy. I'm sure every country has their military academies. So he was sharing something interesting. He went through a 3-year rigorous course in the military academy. And they also have, along with field training, they also have their own scriptures. They study different battles, different wars in history. They study different wars in history. Like the Battle of Waterloo, the Second World War, Battle of Somme, Operation Barbarossa, or the American Civil War. They study all of these battles in great detail. And then he said something interesting. He said, we have an exam and we write the exams and we get marks and then we pass the exam. And then he said in 2008, when the terrorists attacked Mumbai, I don't know if you're aware, it was a big news. The premier hotels in Mumbai were attacked. And he said, when the National Security Guards commandos entered, they were all trained in this course. They had gone through the Indian Military Academy course. They had studied everything. When they were there, it's not that they didn't discuss, now which war case study to apply here? Let us open the textbook. No. Whatever they had studied over the years, it had collectively influenced their intuition. It had helped them understand the dynamics of war and their on-field training plus studying of military books at a collective effort so that on that spot, they could improvise and devise an impromptu solution, trusting their intuition. And that worked to neutralize the terrorists. Are you getting it? Similarly, when we read Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam is about loving Krishna and transcending the problems of material world, when we consistently hear every day, and we also do services, Then when we are faced in provocative situations in our day-to-day life, Krishna in the heart as Chaitya Guru will guide us, will give us the wisdom to navigate through the crisis of material world. We will be able to act with grace and dignity in the face of provoking situations. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is extremely powerful. And therefore, let us absorb ourselves in this beautiful gift Srila Prabhupada has given us and take to Krishna consciousness as an emergency. And this will not only fill our lives with deep happiness, we will be able to contribute to others' happiness and make others' lives also more meaningful. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We have 10 minutes. We can have some comments or questions. Hare Krishna. Afterwards, let's first take the questions on this topic, and then we can take on. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, I will take your question a little later. I saw his hand first. Is that okay? I'll take your question second. Okay? Yes, Prabhu. How to study and absorb in Bhagavatam? How to do it? You study Bhagavatam by doing it. In ISKCON we have His Holiness Niranjan Swami Maharaj. I love his classes. He is an amazing. Once I asked him a question, Maharaj, how do I study Bhagavatam? He said, you study Bhagavatam by studying Bhagavatam. I said, I didn't understand. So then he smiled. He said, in ISKCON, we have a standard set of questions called how to do it questions. How to become humble, Maharaj. How to become sincere. How to chant Hare Krishna. These questions. How to? Have you heard this? How to? So Maharaj said, the answer to all of these questions is, answer to all the how to do it questions is, you do it by doing it. Which means you pick up the Bhagavatam, start reading a little bit every day. Consistency is most important. See, there are two things, simplicity and consistency. Take something, don't have to read, don't have to take a vow of reading one chapter every day. You may get overwhelmed initially. Let me read for 1 minute or one purport. Begin with small, but consistency is most important. Because consistency is what makes everything work. Like, have you used a kettle for drinking hot water? If you put water in a kettle and you switch on, the light glows, you know that it's heating up. Imagine it heats up and after 2 seconds, there's no electricity supply. Then after 10 seconds, again the electricity comes for 1 second. Again it goes away for 10 seconds. Then again 3 seconds electricity is on. Then again no electricity. When do you think you'll get hot water? When? Never. Only if there is a constant supply of electricity, the water will heat up. Right? Consistency is what is needed similarly for Srimad Bhagavatam. You can't say, I will read little bit today and then next year Bhadra Purnima I will open Bhagavatam. No. Every day little bit. Do little but every day. And then one day, what happens? Just like the water will heat up, boil up. Similarly, your heart you'll see emotions for Krishna rising in your heart and you'll be like, where am I getting this emotion? Why am I so happy coming in front of Krishna? Why am I so joyful? How is Krishna consciousness making me so happy? This will happen. So consistency is needed. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Yeah, we'll stop here. What is your question? When was the Bhagavatam written? Yeah. It was written 5,000 years ago, but then you can read the commentaries, contemporary commentaries on the Bhagavatam if you don't understand the language of the Sanskrit. Srila Prabhupada has written in a very simple language. And also, if you find it difficult, what you could also do is, you could do two things along with reading Srimad Bhagavatam. One is render service to devotees, because it is service which helps us realize the Bhagavatam purports. And secondly, you could hear Bhagavatam classes from devotees who are studying Bhagavatam. So when we do hearing and serving, then when we read Bhagavatam, everything, it lights up. So that's how it happens. I think we have to stop here. Sorry? 5,000 years ago. At the end of Dwapara Yuga. Little after Bhagavad Gita. Few years after Bhagavad Gita. Okay, we'll stop here. There are some important announcements to be made. I once again want to express my deep gratitude to all of you here at Houston who have got the shelter of Shri Shri Radha Neel Madhav, Giriraj. I'm so grateful that you are part of this community. I request you to be actively engaged in service and celebrate the joy of being connected to Krishna and Srila Prabhupada, who is the pure representative of Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.